afternoon, second day, lots to speak. Now, Guillaume, you've been here before.
Yes.
You actually opened the sessions, thanks.
Absolutely.
Since your first sessions, we heard about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I should just mention some of the usual, the market development, the growth, the sizing. We look at the different elements, we looked at the channels, and something came a couple of times, but we haven't yet gone deeper on it. And is, what about the SMEs? Mm-hmm. So today's title for this session is Democratizing the Omnichannel for the Untapped Small Business Market. I mean, hitting directly the topic, how do we do it? But let me ask you a first question. We keep on saying that the small and medium business are not using messaging. Really? They're not using messaging?
Yeah, I think it's a good observation and it's a good question. Actually, they do. And I'm talking about personal experience. So I live in the US, in Texas. And the number of people that interact, small, medium business, micro business, using actually messaging is quite high. But what they're doing is using the traditional P2P channel. And a lot of this P2P channel, especially in the omni-channel world, offer very advanced capabilities. A personal example of mine is my therapist. She sent me appointment reminder. She sent me appointment alone, and then the reminder. She makes sure I pay using the phone. She sent me reports, everything. She does everything by messaging. I never receive an email from her, and that's the only tool that she has with her. Same with my general contractor for some home improvement projects. I got a quote, and I receive it by text. Same with my air conditioning company, for the maintenance. But I can tell it's definitively a P2P usage for that kind of segment. And I think so they want to use it because they realize the value of it. People react faster. People pay attention to the messaging. People reply and can do a lot in that channel. But that's the extent of what I see. Yeah.
And if I can add on that, so this morning we were showing some of our data from surveys, showing that if you ask customers where do you receive your messages from businesses, then more people will say they receive messages on WhatsApp, but they receive it on SMS. So something is either they're lying or wrong, both of them could be possible, or just that they really do, but it's not monetized, it's not considered. But why is that then? Why do we have so many businesses out there, some of them probably trying to deal with cost? It could be. Are they not trying? Is cost the real thing? Is that people don't want to pay? Is that?
I don't think cost is the real thing. And so when we started the journey to go and ask about small, medium business, and especially the small business, and I think that the segmentation criteria we're using is, do you have an IT person or not? Okay, so at some point it boils with an IT guys able to set up and configure the system. So let's take a segment of businesses that don't have an IT guys, and that's usually around less than 50 employees, okay? But we're focusing more on the sub 20 and even to the micro sole ownership. So when we asked them the question, and we did multiple, surveys, interviews, and it's super easy because you just walk into a shop, and if they are open, they will say yes, of course I can spend 10 minutes with you. The cost is not an issue; it's the complexity. If you tell them, do you know how to create, an experience, an engagement using messaging or from your phone or from an application, they have no idea. They know how to create a website. They know how to set up an email, because usually it comes together. But messaging is completely foreign. Now, to your point, on WhatsApp, and I don't know if you try yourself, I invite everybody to do it, it's super easy. You go and download WhatsApp for Business. It's an application, works on iOS and Android. I would bet, and we've done the exercise with Carlos multiple times, in less than 5 minutes, if you have all your assets ready and you know the answer to the question, probably in 10 minutes, you're going to be up and running. You're going to have a digital presence on a messaging channel that has 2.4 billion, users. You're going to be in the business. You're going to be able to create your catalog of services and products and have the basics. And I think that's where we need to drive our industry, to that kind of frictionless onboarding, self-service, and really make it easy. Now, cost with WhatsApp for Business, that's a different question, People will appreciate a secure channel, whatever it's RBM or Apple or WhatsApp, and they will be willing to pay. They see if that saves them time and increase the productivity of the day-to-day task and collect the cash faster and collect the money faster, they are willing to spend that money.
Well, I think you've said something very true. It rings to my to my inner manager of a small company. If you ask me right now, please pay messaging, pay to communicate with some of your colleagues in the company, I would say, no, I've got email, it's free, I've always done it for free, I already got a mobile phone, I can do that. But if you're telling me, as you were saying, that's your payment processes you're paying for. That's a very expensive thing for us in terms of manpower, in terms of our using. If you're doing something else with it, if you're selling me, I would buy it.
Yeah.
So as a user, I would really buy into that.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a question of framing stuff.
Yes, it is. I think, as many times in marketing, you really need to understand your segment. You need to understand your users and buyers. The good news is in small, medium business, it's the same person.
Yeah.
The user and the buyer is the same person. So it resonates if you come with a value proposition around saving time and improving their day-to-day, doing more and less, having to spend hours at the end of the day collecting invoice, collecting cash, sending quotation, not getting an answer, having to send another email. And they all realize that messaging has a value there. People answer to messages. It's kind of you get the attention of your customers.
And as you were telling about your personal experience, I'll tell you my experience. I receive SMS messages and email from my dentist before the appointment, after the appointment, as a payment reminder. And they're all automatic and then perfect. I mean, I do like your service. So I had to go and ask. And I asked why she decided to buy it for the receptionist and so on. I said, well, obviously, I'm going to save a lot of time and so on. But it's a no-brainer, etc. So how did you decide? Well, she told me, I didn't decide really. It just came with my software components.
Yes.
I said, that's how the sales was done.
Yeah.
It was just a tick in the box saying, this is your booking system. Oh, by the way, in your booking system, you just send these and you're going to save hours of your receptionist, not two receptionists, one. And she said that was very easy. And so back to that, is there a question of tools, finding the right tools? Do we approach in the right way the small and medium businesses?
Yeah, I think your example is perfect. So my mom was a dentist. Okay. She was, but she will never use technology. So no way she will call the people herself. But clearly, these professional software that are specific to a profession, a vertical, absolutely should embrace messaging. I think we need to come to them with very simple, and it's not just a question of CPaaS or APIs, it's a question about the use cases that we can activate on their behalf or with their cooperation on their software. For a lot of these guys, they have enough work to do to develop the specific functionality of the business, of the profession, but messaging is probably like a nice to have, but not a critical to have. I think we can reverse that, and they will be the best position to promote messaging for the small business owner. The other extreme of that is, and because your example is what we call a verticalized example, so it's a specific vertical, healthcare, dentist, very clear use cases. But you have a bunch of small businesses that we call the horizontal market. And why we call them horizontal market is because when you look at their business, it boils down to maybe 5 to 7 use cases. One is, having a welcome messages. You discover the businesses with a QR code, with an hyperlink, with a phone number. You send a text to that business, and you got a welcome message. The other one is your business hours. It's one of the biggest questions that is being asked. Are you still open? When do you close? Can I make it on time? So make it on time is a very good use case. It's like not only I give you the business hours, but based on your location, yes, you're going to make it or not. Or I can stay, 5 minutes later to wait for you. The other one is a very simple catalog of service or products. Payment, obviously, using the digital wallet, Apple Pay or Google Pay on your phone. Promotions and loyalty management. So you can see there is a number of use cases like this that are very simple, applicable appointment management using an external calendar or an internal calendar. So you can see there are a number of use cases that are applicable to so many businesses. I mean, taking an appointment for my HVAC company to do the maintenance is the same as taking an appointment for my therapist, or is the same of my hairdresser or, I don't know, massage, thing. So there is a number of people that will not go to pay the premium because the verticalized software are a premium, but they bring value, of course. But there is still a number of businesses that are just interested in this very simplified, efficient use cases. Yeah.
So then the question becomes, how do you let them know that there are these 5 potential tools for them to use to book appointments, explain what are the working hours? I did notice that it was on your main presentations.
Yep.
So what can we do with math? I love that, by the way. What can we do as an industry? And say, well, as an industry, we need to educate the user and build the demand. How do you do that? How do you let them know? Educate awareness first stage. How do you make them know that could be available?
Well, I think that the first thing we need to do as an industry, obviously, is to acknowledge and understand how they buy, how that specific segment, the small medium or small businesses, how do they buy IT and communication services? And they don't have many options. One option is they go to their carriers. Because, they walk into the store and say, hey, I'm opening this, business, or I'm starting a new business, I need a new phone line. Whatever, it's a fixed line or mobile line, give me whatever works for me. A lot of these business people, small business people that I've met, carry 2 phones. That's how you know they are a small business owner. They carry 2 phones, personal and professional. And this is really, maybe the carriers is a good entry point, in their retail, in their small, medium business sales group, in their e-commerce, where they're promoting, communication services for that specific segment. And I think this is where we need to make sure we equip the carriers with the solutions that can democratize the messaging for that segment. The other option to promote and make it available to the masses, is really local IT partners. The small IT shop that is coming to set up your computer, to set up your internet. You always have one, as a small business owner, you just hire them for the job. They come, they set it up, they leave. If you have a problem, call me back, and I will be here, because I don't have an IT department as a small business owner. So I hire them. But this guy, and we've been starting to work with some of them in the US, they love it. It's one thing more to sell. It's one thing more to promote, and they see the value for their customers. I think it's very different from the traditional space we are in, where, big brands or large enterprise go to our colleagues and friends of Infobip and Cinch and all the aggregators and CPaaS, where in that case you have developers, you have IT. It's a very different go-to-market. So being able to get to the right buyers or channel partners, whatever it's a carrier, because there's still a trust element from the carriers to that small business owner, or the local IT, because they trust their local IT, the channel partner, I would not say friends, but local IT guys. These are really the two communities we need to better equip, better train on the possibility of messaging.
Can I ask you about another, not community, but possibly another tools? What do you think for the small and medium enterprise about web services? So them going to the web, loading up some of their data and say, there you go, without any interaction, a human or etc. Is that a feasible market channel for these services?
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is what we would call an e-commerce platform, where you go online. We can imagine, to promote the business messaging to companies in the US. We have this company called GoDaddy or 1&1, Drillish, for example, or Wix, where you build your websites. These are the companies that we should also target because they have done a great job to already collect the minimum information they need to deliver an email or to deliver a domain name or to deliver even a business communication. And I think it's possible. It's possible if we show, the value even to the ecosystem players. And obviously in the US, we have a lot of Apple penetration, iPhones, more than 60%. So there is a lot of interest from Apple in that segment because that's not something they do. They are very good at consumer, but they don't do a lot in the business area. But they understand that segment is at the border of the consumer, and we call them the prosumer, the professional consumer. So that's an interest, where we can explain why we need to remove the frictions that we have today on A2P, for example, and getting a shortcode. Yeah, that is a nightmare in the US to get a shortcode. I don't know in Europe, but it's pretty painful, But we need to get rid of that. I mean, we are living in an age where we can activate, go online, put your minimum informations, and get it done. Yeah.
Now, let me then, as I tend to do sometimes to create a bit of controversy,
Sure.
let me ask you to rank them. Who is better positioned as a player to serve? Maybe you got two segments there because you seem to mention the sort of the small office, home office kind of people, the professional users, and then the small, medium enterprise really. So who do you think you would say for each one of them, it's driving the potential implementations of the services?
I think, if we go back to my initial segmentation, you don't have an IT department, so you are on that segment. And then we will refine, are you small or very, very small? Clearly, the best channel that we have observed so far, and I guess, it's a biased view because it's a US view, but I think it can replicate to some extent, is the local channel partners, the local IT firm that you've hired to set up your internet, to set up your computer, to set up your printer, to set up your website, and they are the best position. They are always eager to sell more stuff and to really, adopt technology that makes life of their customer better. There is and then we've been working with a few of them, and there is a genuine interest there, because it's a very personalized interaction between the small business owner and that IT shop. And they will take the time, they will be patient, they will try. So that I think is probably number one. When you don't have an IT shop because you don't rely on an IT department, an outsourced IT department, and you rely more on yourself, then the carriers become an interesting play. Now, not every mobile carriers have an SMB target. They will go and sell to large enterprise because it's more profitable. And going into the small medium business is a question of scale, is a question of low margin potentially, but volume. So it's a possibility there. And after that, I will just consider the platforms, like we mentioned, the the email platforms, the web platforms, the e-commerce platform, like company like Shopify, that you start to see they are adopting business messaging as part of their offering. So I truly believe, based on the feedback we collected, the local IT partners is the best player.
So your ranking, local IT partners come first, then it seems to say your carrier, your MNO, when you buy your phone, your services, and it all comes together. And thirdly, maybe the other ones, whatever happens happens to be next.
Yeah.
Interestingly, you haven't mentioned Mavenir anywhere, so I need to ask you, what does Mavenir do there? What's your role?
Well, it's the same role we ever have, and we continue to have. We are a technology enabler. So our job is to provide technology that enable the local IT guys, the carriers, or the platform to actually deliver a business messaging experience. So we are really an enabler of these partners. We are not going direct. We are not competing with our carriers, customers. We are not competing with everybody. We are competing with the people who build platform as an enabler. So our role in this journey is to really answer a question that we start to get from carriers that are exploring that segment. And they say, okay, Mavenir, how can you help us to build a platform that will address that segment? And not just build it, but can you look at the market? Can you look at the segmentation? Can you look at, the onboarding with the ecosystem? How do we onboard on Apple? How do we onboard? And provide not just the platform, but provide, the business operations. And recently, what we call marketing as a service. So how do we market that service to the end user, to the end buyer? So that's our role. And it's always been our role from the get-go. We used to sell our software inside the network. Now we sell our software in our cloud, public cloud, as an enabler. It's not a Mavenir branded experience. It's not a Mavenir service, but it's the final service will be delivered by the carrier, for example.
Well, thank you. And in my mind, I can imagine how we ourselves have got a bit of a double personality with the messaging word. Half of us still think of messaging as a promotional channel, right? Mm-hmm. We're just talking about, and we associate that a lot with big companies, the companies that have collected your information, send you stuff. But there are lots of use cases here that are use cases for the small companies, but one that could save a lot. But we ourselves don't articulate that in the same way. So we need to probably find the language, and I should stop using probably. We just need to find the right language to talk internally and externally about these multiple personalities. And before I go and ask you more questions, I better go and check how we're doing with time. And if we have questions from the audience or online, if not, I'll continue asking questions or question to the audience.
See if there's a question from the...
Question from the audience. Do we have anybody that has got in a position or a comment or a question on the small and medium businesses? Any of you are active or believe we should be active in that? No, you're still all staying pretty quiet, I should say. I could pick on some of you, but then...
You can pick on Alex.
Sorry?
You can pick on Alex.
Yeah, well, you pick on Alex. I was going to pick on you. That was very smart, Guillaume, to avoid my picking on you. That's fine. Let's involve Alex.
I was going to ask an easy question to Guillaume, but no, I'll pull out the hard one. I'm only joking. No, of course not. I thought it was very insightful, Guillaume. I thought it was really, it was a nice discussion. I bought into it. The big challenge, I think, is to make it as simple as possible, particularly if we're going down, the bigger operators, as you say, they're going to go for the larger organizations. They don't necessarily have the energy to go down to the smaller organizations, the smaller enterprises. But if we're relying on the distribution channels, the IT distribution channels, it's got to be out of the box, really, really simple. And today, I think that's one thing we've said before, it's not out of the box at the moment. So that's the big challenge. What can we do to make it more productized, as it were?
Yeah, it's a great question. So The work we've been doing on the small medium business is actually led by a very large carrier in the US. And so we've been working with their business people, product guys, business people, their sales guys, their go-to-market guys. And I remember, we presented the findings, we presented the ideas, we presented, some of the MVP, minimum viable product, some of the mock-up of the UI. The first question that came to mind from them was, do we need professional services to set it up? And the answer was no. I mean, if we have professional services or if we have a user manual, it means we failed completely the user experience. Because these people are consumer. So even consumer are struggling to set up their phone. If you go to an Apple store, there are people just to help you to set up your phone. So it's to tell it's not a done deal in that segment. But definitively we have to entirely focus on the user experience. One thing as we are progressing the conversation with that carrier, the early decision we've made is to hire 8 unique user experience designers. 8, which is unheard. I mean, for us, we traditionally don't do that because we are more like a network company. But we realized quickly that it doesn't matter, what the technology is in the back end, if it's a WhatsApp channel, omnichannel, RCS channel. What is going to matter is the first 5 seconds. When they open the application, and if that first question is a wrong question, like whatever, what is your tax number, that's going to be a very bad start, or you need to fill that spreadsheet of information about your business before we can activate the channels, So we're taking a very different approach, and what I didn't anticipate it, I work very closely with the UX team. We gave a sense of personality to the application. And we've done massive research about that application feeling. What is that application for a small business owner? Is it an authoritative, application, or is it more like a partner? Mm-hmm. It's actually, it's your business partner. So the way the application starts is really like, hey buddy, I'm your partner. It doesn't say buddy, but it says something like very friendly, like, hey, let's get together, let's work together, And the question are, what's your name? Not even last name and first name, which is like very boring web forms. It's like, what's your name? And you can just put John. Hey, my name is John. Okay, fine, John, And then as we progress in the customer journey onboarding and the different touch points, yes, at some point we're going to ask a question like, hey, do you know that actually we can activate that channel, that will give you access to all these people? Do you want to activate the channel? Yeah, activate. Or I need to ask you additional questions. So we're taking it very gradually, and the user experience, to answer Alex, is critical. No professional services. We have help desk integrated in the app. Actually, it's a chatbot, so it starts with a chatbot. So we are using our own technology to enable that. But yeah, it's all about the UX.
Well, quick summary, if I may, before I bring you back. So, we have Asha, I think I can officially tell her, and we don't know microphone, but Mina is going there, and we're going to be a bit late, but at this point we will get there. No, go.
All I was saying that she likes the response, yeah? She's the designer.
Okay, good.
And to put the customer experience at the heart of this.
Absolutely.
Is exactly, she's brought a smile to her face.
Everywhere else as well, not just on the conversation experience.
Mm-hmm.
Expert and skilled designers will help you with your strategy and your vision for how you accommodate the rest of this also complicated end-to-end process. It's more to it than just what the user sees on the phone.
I agree.
Your CPaaS, everything, there's room for improvement on all of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's engage, let's not scare them. Perfect. And we got applause as well. Well done. My attempt to summarize where we are, we're still addressing the small and medium enterprise, but there's good news from the talk we had before.
Yep.
For what I can hear from you, a proposition is developing.
Yep.
You're building different value packages. you trying to find the channels to go for them, which could be the IT resellers, or it could be the carriers, or something else. But that feels like a proper proposition. So I feel a bit more positive about that. So thanks, Guillaume, for that.
You're welcome.
But it looks like we probably need to go and talk to you as well in the future, because we definitely haven't finished with this topic. But thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
And thanks back to Tim.